You're listening to The Whole Truth, a Resources Rising Stars podcast.
Hello everyone, welcome back to The Whole Truth podcast. I'm Paul Armstrong. I've just been talking to Glenn Jardine. He's the Managing Director of Bellavista Resources. Bellavista is part of the Steve Parsons camp, to coin a phrase. That's the group that is behind some very successful junior and mid-tier resource stocks. Names like Firefly, Andy and Silver, Cygnus probably come to mind, and Bellavista is in that group. Glenn Jardine and his off-sider Peter Canterbury led De Grey on what was a highly successful journey culminating in a $6 billion takeover by Northern Star. People are wondering what it is that Steve Parsons said to Glenn and Peter to bring them back into the game. Glenn tells us why he was lured back into the game, what he likes about Bellavista, and how they came across this Pickle Crow project and did a deal pretty quickly. Pickle Crow has a whopping resource, 2.8 million ounces at 7.2 grams per tonne. But this story is about the exploration growth. How do they grow that resource, not just around the mine, but at a big pasture of exploration property they have nearby. Don't forget, when this was last drilled, the gold price was around about $2,000 an ounce. So well less than half the current price. So the combination of the higher price, the increased exploration technology that's now available, and the leadership of Glenn and Peter and co, they think they can create substantial value here and follow in the footsteps of Firefly and Andy and the like. Have a listen to what Glenn's got to say about why he likes this project and what they're going to do to unlock the value. Glenn, people will be listening to this thinking, what did Steve Parsons say to you to get you back into the game?
Yeah, well, it's a good question, but the main thing is that Steve Parsons and Mike came and had a chat to us, and they've got such a great reputation in the industry, and they put Bellavista to me and Peter Canterbury, and we looked at it. Really tightly held company, really good major shareholders in it, and we saw the opportunity to work with a good group of people in a nice tight structure, and that was something we were looking for.
So let's look at that. You say it was a tight structure. It's important, in this business. Some share registers have been so blown up, boasting so many shares over time, but Bellavista is tight, isn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty tight. So for a microcap, explorer in Australia, it had 100 million shares on issue, and relatively tightly held with Steve and Mike as major shareholders and Mark Clark as well. So, good people in the industry, strong backgrounds for creating value. And, we're very happy to join that group of people in such a company, yeah.
Now, you've hit the ground running, it's fair to say, you and Peter, and in no time you've agreed to acquire this Pickle Crow project. Pickle Crow obviously has a whopping resource, but 2.8 million ounces at 7 odd grams a tonne. I mean, this is pretty unusual stuff. Is that what drew you into this asset?
Yeah, it's a good asset. So, that 2.8 million ounces is a good start. And what people will know is that 1.5 million ounces had been mined there before historically, between 1935 and 1966 at around a half an ounce a tonne. So, the combined endowment there is over 4 million ounces already. But what was really interesting was the regional exploration upside that's sitting there. So outside of the main mine area, there's been very little drilling conducted to date. And Firefly only did a detailed aeromag survey and LiDAR survey in 2023. So, modern exploration techniques being applied to this project are really in their infancy. And we were both looking for an opportunity where we could make discoveries and grow, an existing resource. So it really fit the bill.
So you've got two. You could probably loosely put this asset or assets that you've acquired here into two camps, couldn't you? You've got the resource and the near mine exploration potential around that resource.
Yep.
And then you've got these dislocated exploration opportunities, some very promising ones, which we'll talk about in a second. In a second group, there's two autonomous opportunities.
Yeah, you've got real optionality, and what's interesting about this project, and I think it's the perception I had when I came into this, which sort of got quickly disabused, is that people look at the historical mining, which was underground, narrow vein gold, half an ounce a tonne, but the resource grew from 800,000 ounces to 2.8 million ounces with Firefly drilling about 160,000 metres of drill core. Now, that 2 million ounces addition a lot of that's near surface. And I think what people haven't really picked up on is that there's around 1 million ounces at over 4 grams a tonne in the top 250 metres of that resource. And there's almost 2 million ounces at 4 grams a tonne sitting in the top 500 metres of that resource. So I think from a perception point of view, my thinking about the project and upside has really flipped. I see a lot of near surface opportunity here, both in terms of discovery and resource growth. And the last time that this project was, looked at in terms of, a mineral resource estimate was when the gold price was $2,000 an ounce.
Now we shouldn't skip over that. I mean, that's an amazing statistic. Even after the dip of the last few days, it's still less than half the current gold price.
Yeah, that's right.
Well less. So that changes the whole economics and outlook of the project.
Yeah, correct. And the other thing is, that the guys from Firefly, they saw a deal come along in 2023, with the copper asset at Green Bay, and you can see what they've done, with the value accretion to Firefly since then.
That's been one of the great success stories of the past 2 years, hasn't it?
Yeah, so it wasn't that they didn't like this asset. It was more that, this amazing opportunity came along elsewhere and they couldn't do both at once. So now they're looking to, get some value out of Pickle Crow and that asset. And we're looking to, leverage some value out of the work they've done, to date.
It's telling that in the deal that you've done there with Firefly, that Firefly shareholders are going to emerge with a big stake of Bellavista.
Yeah.
So obviously, the guys and their shareholders are very keen to keep the exposure to the upside here. It's not just a case of trying to sell an asset. It's more a case of we want to put it into something else so that we can focus on the Green Bay copper gold asset while someone else unlocks the value of this.
Yeah, that's right. And so the shares that get issued by Bellavista, the first round of shares, get issued in specie to Firefly shareholders. That's subject to their shareholder meeting approvals. And then Firefly itself keeps some performance rights based on, performance milestones at the project.
Now, you talk about the opportunity to grow the resource, Glenn, across relatively shallow levels by extending the resource around the mine, etc. But moving to the second group of assets, if you like, the exploration assets, where I think a lot of people are actually saying, that's where the really big upside is here. That's where you've got an opportunity to really move the needle very quickly. What is in that group of assets that you like?
Yeah, so this greenstone belt that we've got sitting there, the rocks at Pickle Crow, they're the same rocks that you've got in the Yilgarn Craton in Western Australia that host all the gold deposits here. The gold deposits in the project area were all created at the same time as the Western Australian gold assets. So it's the same rocks. So it's a great place for a bunch of Australian explorers to go because, it's very familiar. But what's interesting is that the structures that run through where the historical mining was and where the current resource sits, they run for 60 kilometres north of that project. So there's a main structure, there's a splay that comes off it, and there's another structure to the northeast. And it's really surprising that modern exploration really hasn't been applied there until 2023.
So what are you going to do now to start creating value out of this? What's the priorities and the plan of attack here?
Yeah, so we're looking at a number of different targets. So, we've got some parallel streams that we can go with here. So one of them is to increase the resource base around the mining area, particularly in that, plus 500 metre category, so near surface, to see what the opportunities are there. There's very little drilling along strike near the mine, along these major structures. So we want to do some exploration drilling outside of that where we've already got a few sniffs. And then within about 3 kilometres of the mine, there's some prospects like Metcalf that we can go and have a look at where Firefly have already intersected some mineralisation, but it needs to be followed up. And then you've got these shears that run the entire length of the tenement package, which we want to follow up as well. And that's going to involve, getting on the ground, looking at the geophys surveys, the LiDAR surveys, and figuring out where we want to go with, soil sampling and that sort of thing.
Now, you're building a team to help you with this?
Yeah, that's right. So at the moment, and up until this time, we've been able to leverage off the knowledge, that's within Firefly, and we'll continue to do that for a little while yet. Obviously, everyone wants to make this be a success, and but what we'll do is we'll be building up a team in Australia, particularly to have a look at the database and pull apart the geophys and the structural model, and then in Canada, we'll be building a team together to get on the ground.
Right. So what happens next? Take us through the plan here.
Yeah. So what we have been doing, and what we'll continue to do until the transaction's finalised, is that we'll start doing targeting. There's already some leftover targeting from the Firefly days, so we'll look at that, and then we'll figure out where to go and do some drilling. We've already got some plans on that, and then we'll get some more detail around that, get a really nice schedule around it. But in terms of drilling, we'll probably start in the near mine area to look at resource extensions and new discoveries in that part of the world. And then later in the year, we'll get stuck into regional exploration.
And funding, you've got the pockets for it. You did the raise as part of the acquisition?
Yeah, that's right. So we had really good support from institutions as part of that placement. That comes in two stages. The first stage involved a placement of around 19 million, and then there's about 16 million in the second stage. That's subject to shareholder approval along with the acquisition itself. But we'll be sitting with around about 35 million to be able to go on with exploration and near mine resource
because
growth.
You only initially planned to raise 25.
Yeah, there was just a lot of interest.
So what did the instos say to you? You did these briefings as is standard when you're trying to raise money. You told them about the asset and what you're going to do with it. What was the feedback they gave you?
Yeah, so a couple of things there. One was, I think that the value of the company relative to its resource scale has probably got some accretion. So there's probably some leverage there in the share price once this transaction goes through. And then it was really clear from the messaging around the exploration upside that they could see the opportunity here for resource growth and new discoveries. And look, it's in a fantastic mineralised belt. Something like more than 40 million ounces has either come out of that belt or is in resources and reserves. So, this is an area where there's been a lot of gold endowment and also in the last few years there's been a lot of corporate activity. So this is a part of the world where people want to be, and they can see that there's potential for exploration success and accretion in the company's share price and value just based on the metrics around the resource and how that sits with peers.
Yeah, and right, given that there was such demand for it, you can see that obviously that some of that's washing over in the share price. I mean, the stock is trading obviously at a healthy premium to the raise. Yeah. So there's obviously interest. I mean, you've got broking firms who I take it will be doing some research on this.
Yeah, that's right. So, you've got Canaccord, Euros Hartley's, Argonauts. They were all involved in the capital raising. So, they're involved in research for the company as well.
Yeah, great. Well, it sounds like you've made a great start to it, but this is obviously one where you've got the potential to create a lot of value by going back to almost a first position exploration strategy, take apart what you've got, apply modern technology, use your deep pockets in an area that's obviously got truckloads of gold. There's no issue there. It's a case of trying to optimise the opportunity. Yeah,
that's right. And what I like is that there's at least three legs to this particular asset and this game we've got there in Canada, and one of them is conceptual targets to go after. Following up on geochem either in soil sampling or previous drilling where we know there's gold occurrences on these structures. And then there's resource growth. And we're really looking forward to it.
Great. Well, Glenn, thanks for joining us on The Whole Truth. We'll come back and have a chat probably in 6 months, but by which stage I suspect you'll be right into the midst of it all. Plenty of news flow. Steve Parsons, Mike Naylor and the team are absolutely on a roll, aren't they? I mean, Green Bay, Andy and Cygnus, they've created some serious value there in the last 2 or 3 years. So no doubt they've got strong plans to add another string to their bow here.
Yeah, and it's great to have their support, and obviously, they're personally and collectively interested in what happens here. Very strong supporters.
Great. Thanks very much, Glenn.
Cheers.
You've been listening to The Whole Truth, a Resources Rising Stars podcast, produced by Resource Media, hosted by Paul Armstrong for Reed Corporate. Please note that Reed Corporate does not provide investment advice, and investors should seek personalised advice before making any investment decisions.